It was always the same old life and the same old ways for Coconut Fred. He would get excited and dream up wonderful things for his friends to enjoy, but his friends would always view them as trouble. They would want to leave the island, or they'd want him to leave the island. Either way, Coconut Fred never felt welcome. Sure, he had friends, and sure, his conscious mind convinced him to believe that his friends were true friends, but they weren't. Somewhere deep in the back of his subconscious, he knew that he was unwanted on the island and that his friends only viewed him as being an endless source of misery. Coconut Fred decided he had enough. Coconut Fred knew the entire time that he had amazing superpowers in which any nightmare he imagined would ultimately come true. And today was the day that it would all come to an end. It began innocuously enough. Bingo Cherry, his closest friend, approached him and asked him what was wrong. He wasn't used to Coconut Fred being sad. In fact, it seemed like Coconut Fred wasn't capable of ever having negative feelings, even when he performed in Coconut Fred's all body sound band, consisting of bodily sounds like burping, rude armpit noises, and gargling. What's wrong, Fred? Bingo asked. Bingo, everything's wrong. Bingo was taken aback by this answer. What, what do you mean? Take a look at that sandcastle, that volcano, and that sun. Huh? Bingo Cherry responded, disheveled. What if every last one of these things was taken away? Bingo Cherry paused and scratched his head. He was confused. Well, sandcastles get taken away by the shore all the time in the tide, but no, Bingo. Now you're going to be thinking coconuts. What did that mean? Thinking coconuts? Yay, me. Coconut Fred said his catchphrase, but in an ominous tone of voice. Coconut Fred took out a pencil. It was a super large number 2 pencil. I just dreamed it up from my imagination, Bingo. But it's not just any old number 2 pencil. What what are you planning on doing, Fred? Bingo asked, sensing something was horribly wrong. And it was. It started with the sandcastle. I made a promise, and I can't erase my promises, Bingo. What? Fred? Next, Coconut Fred beckoned Bingo to follow him up to the summit of the volcano. As you can see, Fred began, this is where things become erased. In magma, Bingo Cherry responded. Yes, in magma, Bingo, but you're missing the bigger picture. Coconut Fred drew a picture of large sagging human breasts. Not that picture, Bingo! This one! Coconut Fred erased the entire volcano. The volcano started erupting in distress and melting all sorts of things on the island, palm trees, sand, even some of the fruit characters had been demolished with fourth-degree burns and exoskeleton bones molten. Bingo Cherry began to scream and run around in panic. Oh, Bingo, I can't stand to see you this way. Coconut Fred jumped on Bingo Cherry. He pinned the pencil closer and closer to Bingo's head. This is where it all gets erased. Coconut Fred erased Bingo Cherry from existence. It's time for another kind of cartoon, Coconut Fred exclaimed. A non existent one. Let's get canceled. Bingo Cherry ran around the island. The corpse of Bingo Cherry, it was a ghost. He'd been erased and he no longer existed. Or did he? He haunted the island. He haunted all the other fruits who were still alive. That was no ordinary eraser. It didn't just erase Bingo Cherry out of existence. It it turned him into some sort of zombie ghost that did some sort of horrible evil bidding. I never told you where my powers come from, Bingo. Could it be Satan? Coconut Fred ran around the island. He erased the Hillbilly brothers who were in the middle of crashing NASCARs into random objects. He erased Mr. Greenrind, who said it was against the rules to erase them, but that paid him no mind. He, he went up to the ship, Wedgie the Lemon Sailor's stranded ship, his shipwrecked ship. Wedgie, you always said you wanted off the island. And now I might just be able to do that for you. Wedgie blinked. He didn't know how to respond to it. His eyes were bloodshot. He was very nervous. He began to sweat out sour lemon juices. Betty, I think Coconut Fred's going to kill us, Betty. No. You're not going to stop existing. I'm going to make it so that you exist forever. Coconut Fred pinned down and erased Wedgie. Wedgie became a ghost, just like all the others. They were all ghosts haunting the island, but they were running out of people to haunt. Well, this isn't fun anymore, Coconut Fred muttered to himself. It was never my dream in life to be so alone. I can think of a couple options for what I want to do next, which will be what I want to do last. Coconut Fred started to concentrate. He concentrated so hard that he began to break out into a horrible sweat. The coconut milk life fluid began draining out of his head through pores that you couldn't otherwise see. Do I erase myself? Or do I erase the sun? Coconut Fred began to contemplate. If I erase the sun, I erase the world. If I erase myself, I can haunt the world forever. What the heck is wrong with you? Slurpy the fruit bat chimed in. Quiet, Slurpy! Coconut Fred erased Slurpy the fruit bat. Slurpy began to fly away from the island, screaming and shrieking, but in some sort of jubilee. It seemed like he was the only one happy to be a ghost. Slurpy screamed out that he was so happy that he would never see light again, which only moved Coconut Fred closer to his final conclusion. The sun. Yes, no light again. No light anymore. All I have to do is erase the sun. Coconut Fred began concentrating again. The hardest he ever concentrated his entire life. Coconut Fred began to shiver and shake. It was as if even he was afraid of his horrible superpowers, his horrible, evil, demonic superpowers. Coconut Fred grew larger and larger and larger. His limbs extended and extended and extended. His taffy-like tongue began to twist and turn and convulse in shapes and ways that were unimaginable. His eyes began to pop out of his head like egg yolks. Coconuts don't have egg yolks in them. And soon he wouldn't have eyes in him anymore. I have no eyes, no reason to see. I was stranded here all by the sea. I killed all the fruit and the sun's gotta go. First the volcano and now the world's gonna blow. Yay me, oh coconuts. Only me can make this fun. The end of the world, the end of the show. Children, if you're watching, be sure you don't go to sleep for a few hours more. A few hours more? What did that have to do with anything? Well, it happened. It's beginning to go dark, Coconut Fred said. I can't have this. Coconut Fred shoved back the moon. Although it was a cartoon, this still felt wrong. He shoved the moon away and he pulled the sun back out. Don't be afraid, Mr. Sun. Don't be a sour lemon. Don't be such a sour puss. And don't be a scaredy cat of what I'm about to do. 10, 15, 20 minutes, slowly but surely, Coconut Fred slowly erased the entire sun in the sky. There was no blast, no supernova. The sky began to twist and contort sickly, unnatural colors. The birds in the air began to fall and die. The tides got crazy weird. And the earth began to decay and become ashen. All the water drained, and then the cartoon went purely white. A few hours after this episode aired, it was reported that some children noticed strange coconut shaped men outside of their windows, but no one believed them. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe it was one of their childhood bullies taking a coconut from a household and attaching a knife to it, using some other household object as a hand for coconut quote unquote thread. But there was no way of knowing if they were actually being haunted or if these were just culinary items. Until last week, the police report finally came in. There was a reason why Coconut Fred was canceled without warning. And that reason is because executive producer Sander Schwartz had previously been fired from his job as a chef for stealing coconuts out of the refrigerator and stabbing them repeatedly, making videos out of them as if they were corpses, scaring the heck out of local school children when he left them outside of the local schools. He avoided arrest and he said he was sorry, but he wasn't. He wasn't sorry at all.